Well, All In is in the rearview mirror. All Out is on the way. Bash in Berlin is no more. Bad Blood is the focus. It is the ball is rolling here in the world of pro wrestling, and we are here to break it all down for you. I'm Jason Marcus, along with Willie Thrill here. Top Rope Takes back at it again on your screens. Will, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Excited to be here as always. Getting back to business here. We coming off a great Bash in Berlin show. Excited to talk about that, and excited to talk about Raw from this past Monday.
Yeah, I thought Bash in Berlin was a good show. Not the best show we've ever seen, but we kind of expected that, right? We kind of knew what it was, but still fun regardless. Another interesting episode of Monday Night Raw. There's a lot going on in the world of AEW that we'll get a chance to talk about this week with All Out coming up soon. But I feel like the headline at this hour, Will, is probably, let's say you probably stuff with Judgment Day, maybe.
There's a lot of great stuff to talk about on Monday Night Raw, but I feel like the overarching thing I want to talk about Monday Night Raw is the introduction of our new commentary
Okay.
team. We got Wade Barrett and Joe Tessitore. Joe
Mm-hmm.
Tessitore doing play-by-play, Wade Barrett on color commentary. Jason, what did you think about this duo as we go through Monday Night Raw here?
Yeah, I thought it was actually really an interesting choice because you would think that when you're debuting somebody new, what I mean, listen, Joe Tessitore is a veteran. You know, he's been around the block, but just not in pro wrestling. But regardless, if you're going to bring in somebody new, I thought it was an interesting choice to have Wade Barrett be his dance partner in all this. I would have thought that you would just stick him in there with Michael Cole, the veteran, the leader of the entire department, and you kind of have Michael Cole show him how it's done. Because realistically, anyway, Joe Tessitore is in the, in as far as the WWE landscape goes, he's in the mold of Michael Cole, right? A straight man, professional ring announcer. So why not learn from him? So I thought that was an interesting choice, and that also would have let Corey and Wade continue their run together on SmackDown. I don't see the value in Michael Cole and Corey on SmackDown when they are your top two announcers and having your bottom two announcers doing your flagship show. So that, to me, that doesn't make a ton of sense. But as far as performance goes, I think Joe did a great job on his first night.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna disagree with you there. I think Joe and Michael would have been an awful pairing because that's two play-by-play guys, and that
Mm-hmm.
is always bottom of the barrel commentary. I would have not wanted to hear Joe Tessitore try to do color on his first night. That would have
Mm-hmm.
been horrible. The thing about the WWE hires when they hire these broadcasters, they're already throwing their feet to the fire by putting them on play by play because we're so used to having Michael Cole on play by play.
Mm-hmm.
The only way to experience play by play is to be the play by play guy, not to
Yeah.
just be next to the play by play guy and try to fill in your 2 cents. Now, to your point, I would have rather seen him with Corey. I would have rather seen
Okay.
Joe Tessitore with
Then
Corey
that's yes.
Graves because I feel like Corey Graves is a better color commentary guy, but I do like Wade Barrett a lot. I like his voice. I just think because of Corey Graves having experience in both play by play and color commentary now, he would have been able to kind of help out
Mm-hmm.
Joe Tessitore in play by play while still being the main color commentary guy. But as far as Joe Tessitore goes, I thought for a first night, just a first night of being a play by play guy, I thought he did a really good job. And here's why.
He didn't call anybody
Obviously,
Jeff Harvey.
he didn't call anyone Jeff Harvey. He knew the names of moves, which was nice to hear. I
Yeah.
think there's some stuff, if I were to just nitpick a little bit right off the bat, but again, it's his first night. Just the cadences of which he would speak, like there would be a big move and he would kind of still keep his monotone
Mm.
voice. He almost kind of, it was weird. He kind of had like a Mean Gene kind of voice to him, like a very like sultry, like kind
I'm
of
here with
deep
Hulk
voice,
Hogan.
very, very official. We are live here
We're
in the
alive.
Mile High City. And yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I do like that voice, and I think over time he'll get used to the cadence and stuff of like how to call certain moves in the heat of the moment
Mm-hmm.
because he was very like one note, one tone the whole time. But he had his facts down. He knew what he was talking about. He is a fan, genuinely. When I saw him, he did like a segment on SummerSlam talking to Michael Cole, and he mentioned going to see Chief Jay Strongbow and Big
Mm-hmm.
John Studd. Those are some of the names my dad used to see at
Yeah.
high school
He's
gymnasiums
that
when they would
old.
tour on the Northeast. Yeah, I mean, he's pretty old guys, but that just shows me that he is a fan of this. He's been a
Yeah.
fan for a long time. So he does. I truly believe he wants to do as best as he can to try to be that next Michael Cole. So I'm willing to give him a few weeks. If he's at this level, like in a month or two, then I'll kind of be like, all right, we should start seeing improvement by now. Like, I don't know what
Yeah.
you're doing. But for a first night, I thought he did a great job, and I'm excited to see him improve more as the weeks go on as a play-by-play
I thought
commentator.
it was interesting too that they threw him right on Monday Night Raw. Like, why not start him on SmackDown?
It's interesting. I think he is going to switch to SmackDown once Raw goes to Netflix. They are going to do Michael Cole and Corey Graves on Netflix, and they're going to have Joe Tessitore and Wade Barrett on SmackDown, which I think is the right move.
Yes.
But I think they're just waiting for that switch to happen to then establish, okay, Raw is the bigger show now since it's on Netflix. Let's get our two A-list commentators on that show, and then have Joe Tessitore and Wade Barrett be on SmackDown. But I think with SmackDown now switching over to USA, you want to keep that momentum hot,
Right,
by having Michael Cole and Corey Graves on SmackDown. So I think that's the logic I kind of went with when they made that announcement.
Yeah.
Which I think is the right move.
I mean, and we both know that these like commentary team pairings don't ever last. Like it'll be Michael Cole and Corey Graves on Netflix for like 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. You never know. And I do hope Joe Tessitore lasts longer than some of the other former sports broadcasters, because I do think he has more of a passion than like some of the previous
That'd be a funny idea for
commentators.
A video. Tier ranking all the
all
other
the commentators. You know what? I'll make a note of that, because I definitely have some thoughts about some of the past commentators we've had.
What was the guy's name who did like Jeff Harvey Summerfest?
Mike Adamley.
Mike Adamley. Oh
Yeah,
boy,
man, he was rough. He was rough. But that's okay. That's it. That is way in the past.
They had the British guy too, not that long ago, right?
Irish Kevin Patrick.
Yes,
Are you talking
Irish.
about?
Yeah, KP.
Yeah. Which
I didn't think he was terrible.
He's actually a great soccer or football play-by-play guy. Like, he does a really good job with that stuff, but it just didn't translate over to wrestling.
I wonder like why they're so committed. So like that's very interesting to me. Why are they so committed to bringing in outside like broadcasters? Why not like just do what they're doing in every other department and just be homegrown people? Like they have a performance center for a reason. You can't tell me that there's not people in there that are training to be commentators, you know?
Yeah. I mean, look, you're talking to a guy who's doing commentary for 4 different wrestling promotions.
Bring in
right
Willie
now.
Thrill. That's all I'm saying.
I totally look, I'm with you there. Like, I totally wish they would do homegrown guys, but I also know where they're coming from. They want someone with a professional background that can kind of bring some legitimacy to the position. But I think there needs to be a balance too. Like, I think you got to have someone who does have a legitimate background and also has some commentary experience within the world of wrestling.
Even put in a former wrestler who's like not doing anything, but they can talk on the mic, you know?
Yeah, it seems to work out, especially with like guys like Wade Barrett and Corey Graves.
That's what they're doing in AEW. They got Daddy Magic, Matt Menard. They got Jericho, and sometimes
and we'll talk about that maybe on Friday when we do our all out predictions. But AEW needs an overhaul on their commentary team for sure. But at least I think they're more willing to reach out to independent names than necessarily go with like a sports broadcaster like WWE is very focused in on.
Cool. All right. What else from Raw you want to talk about?
Well, we have a new title challenger for Gunther, and it unfortunately is not CM Punk like I thought it would be.
Not yet.
After Bash of Berlin.
Not yet.
They teased it. So let's talk about the CM Punk thing, because they did tease that first. After Bash of Berlin, between CM Punk got his big win in the strap match, which I do want to get your thoughts on in a second. But we also had Gunther defeating Randy Orton. So it did kind of set up afterwards in an interview that he did with Kathy Kelly that he wants to go after the gold. And he established that here tonight. He said he wants to go after the gold. He's not here to make friends. He's here to make money, Jason. He said that from the beginning, and now he wants that to come to fruition. He said, Gunther, get used to hearing cult of personality more. Called his shot, but before he was done celebrating, Drew McIntyre swept the legs from his legs, as I would say, and knocked him down on the announce table. And just like WrestleMania 40, and we had this segment where Drew brutalized CM Punk, took that famed wristband friendship bracelet off of CM Punk and ripped it to shreds. stuffed the beads in his mouth and gave him a
Asshole.
claymore.
Wow.
It was just, I mean, all around brutal. Jason, I want to get your thoughts on this segment and also the strap match, which CM Punk came out victorious.
I thought the segment was good. I enjoyed the segment. I thought it gave it. It was a different side, not a different side. It was a more brutal side of Drew that we haven't really seen before. But we never really. I haven't really seen Drew get like that, like physical. He's kind of just been cheeky, as the Brits used to say. Um, but like he was like pretty violent and pretty aggressive here, which was a good side for him to see. I thought this segment brought the tension to another level, which was good, and continued the program, which is good. We'll see where it goes from here for 6 weeks. Right, I think it's like 6 weeks away till um Bad Blood. As far as the strap match goes, like I thought it was boring, dude. I did not like the strap match. Um, I thought the rules were dumb. Um, Tagging four corners, but then it would reset if like they punch somebody.
The
Um,
momentum thing pissed me off.
that's
That
so
match, it was
dumb.
so weird.
It's the entire thing was dumb. I don't know why that was a stipulation they went with. Um, like I think what we were saying last week, where it would have just been better if it was a strap match in the same sense of like a dog collar match, where just like you just pin them and they're tied to each other. Um, the four corners thing was dumb. The finish was dumb. I was not a fan of this. I know you're a big. I know this CM Punk's your guy, so maybe you have different thoughts. But hot take, top rope take. I thought that was the worst match in Bash in Berlin.
I mean, I could see that. And here's the thing. Here's what I'll say about the match. I thought for a strap match, it was pretty good. Which is like say it's like being the nicest guy in prison. Like
All
it's really
right.
not saying much.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, like I thought for what it had, like there's limitations of it being a strap match where you have to touch corners, where you get the stupid, I'm reaching out, I almost got it, and then you get hit, whatever. I actually did like the finish where Punk was touching the corners, and then each time he was going to touch a corner, he risked his momentum being broken up by hitting another GTS to make sure Drew was down and out.
Mm.
And then over and over again, he had to hit the GTS and touch the corners to win the match. So for a strap match, I thought it was as entertaining as a strap match could be with the scenario. And what I did like about it is that it did leave an opening to continue the feud if they wanted to,
Mm.
because CM Punk didn't officially pin Drew McIntyre. And so I think that's going to lead into their Bad Blood match, which I assume will probably be Hell in a Cell, which I'm going to be holding my breath that whole time
CM Punk's
because
last match, buddy.
no, God. Man, I hope not. I mean, they teased the Gunther thing, so I'm
Yeah.
curious about that. But they also, in the same breath, they teased Drew going after the World Heavyweight Championship after SummerSlam when Gunther and Randy Orton stared off, and then Drew McIntyre randomly came out, and we're like, "Oh, what is this?" But then Punk came out and attacked him with the strap, so it kind of did tease Drew getting involved in the World Heavyweight Championship picture. I do think, you know, knock on wood, everyone stays healthy. I do think Punk's going to come out of this whole thing as the winner and the number one contender to Gunther, and
Yeah.
they'll face off most likely at Survivor Series,
Yeah.
where
No,
1 year after made his return.
I agree with that. I almost don't hate the idea though of getting CM Punk Gunther before Bad Blood, which I don't think is possible given the timeline. But given how much CM Punk has screwed Drew McIntyre out of the championship, don't you think it's fitting that Drew McIntyre would screw CM Punk out of the championship?
I think you can. I just don't want to see because I think if Hell in a Cell isn't CM Punk's last match, I think his match with Gunther might be his last match, given how
Yeah.
much Gunther's probably going to destroy him.
Yeah.
So I don't think you want to risk putting CM Punk in another match before Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
Unless you're really trying to pop a Raw rating, which I don't think they're that desperate to do, considering
No.
they're moving to Netflix in a few months. So as much I think storyline wise, that would be a cool little beat, but then I wouldn't have done this segment here. I would have had Punk
Right.
challenge Gunther and pretend like, oh, okay, Drew really is in the rearview mirror. Had
Yes.
Gunther come out, they do a stare down, promote a match in a week or two, and then that's when Drew comes back and does this thing that he did here.
Yeah. Well, Apparently, that's not what we're getting, but a boy can dream, right?
Right. And then just to wrap up, I thought this segment was awesome with
Mm,
Drew snapping the friendship bracelet. And
yeah.
I did love I think her name is Victoria, the girl who made the friendship bracelet, was
Yes.
just absolutely devastated. And Drew quote tweeted it saying, "The blood is on your hands now." So he's just absolutely ruthless.
Elite Twitter troll.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm looking, I mean, I while I'm looking forward to their final match, I am kind of getting towards the end of this. I feel like I wish Bad Blood was kind of sooner than later
Yeah.
because I do want this thing to wrap up so we could get CM Punk and more juicier storylines and also see where Drew McIntyre goes from
Yeah.
here.
Where does he go from here?
I'm just as curious as you. I think there could be a lot of interesting. I think he does need a feud that can kind of bolster him back into the main event scene. I just don't know who that person would be necessarily. It might be a big return. It might be maybe they call up someone from NXT to kind of
Mhm.
get a rub off Drew. But I think Drew, since this has been one of the more interesting things Drew has done in WWE, he's got to keep that momentum going by being something equally as interesting. Whereas
Give,
CM Punk, I think, is the magnet for being interesting. So
right.
him being in a feud with Gunther is automatically like, give me my money.
Give me after this, give me Drew McIntyre versus Ilya Dragunov.
Ooh, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
I like that a
It'll
lot.
elevate Ilya and Drew can get the win. I don't care, but give me that match.
Yeah, I could see him go in a lot of different directions. Or does he go to SmackDown? Do you make that move and then he could go after Cody?
I wouldn't hate that either.
We'll see.
We'll see. Depends on what they get Cody doing and then at that point.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we talked about the CM Punk Drew McIntyre stuff. We briefly talked about Gunther. But as you mentioned, Gunther does have a new challenger, presumably. And it's one that I like a lot because it makes logical sense, which is my favorite thing in pro wrestling. So Gunther comes out, cuts a promo after handedly defeating Randy Orton at Bash in Berlin, which I thought was a good main event. Gunther went strong. It went about exactly as everybody expected it to. I don't expect to see Randy Orton for a while, which I'm fine with because I think he's at the point of his career where if he's not in the world title picture, does he really even need to be on TV? Anyway, so Gunther's talking about his win over Randy, and he gets interrupted by none other than Sami Zayn. And Sami essentially says, I beat you at WrestleMania for the Intercontinental Championship. Many superstars in the past, British Bulldog, The Rock, Triple H, you, whatever, have used the Intercontinental Championship as a stepping stone to the world title. That's what you did, Gunther. And that's what I'm going to do. And Sami calls a shot. And Gunther, being the dastardly heel that he is, says, Sami, no title shot. And and God, what just a smug little Austrian. And yeah, but then Sami kind of keeps prodding, and I think we're gonna get it eventually down the line. Is this bad blood? I don't know. Is this a TV match? I don't know. But we're gonna get Gunther Sami. It makes logical sense why Sami would be the next challenger, and I'm here for it, Will.
I'm too. I think this is a great challenger for Gunther because there's very few names that have that
Mm,
credibility as a threat to Gunther. Sami Zayn is quite simply like one of the only names in that category for the
mm,
simple fact that he has beaten Gunther before. He beat Gunther earlier this year.
mm,
So it's better than trying to shovel in like a mid Carter as like a filler feud
mm.
for Gunther. I still think this is kind of like a filler match to get Gunther to the next championship match, which
At
I
least
think
it makes sense, though.
will be CM Punk, but this makes logical sense. They're also going to have a great match.
Yeah.
I'm very much looking forward to it. And it's interesting because I think Gunther's obviously going to win, but it
Mm,
is a scenario where it's like it adds more to the Sami Zayn storyline where after losing this, it just adds more to that his character of like he can do it all, but he just can't win the big one. And
right.
I think that's going to carry more momentum into the next world title picture storyline that Sami Zayn is involved in. Just like
Yeah.
the Randy Orton match was, where Randy Orton's chasing that 15th and
Yeah.
16th world championship. Him losing against Gunther is going to add more to that storyline later on
Right.
down the line when Randy challenges for a world title again.
Yes, I agree with that. And also, I'm happy to see that they pulled the trigger on this instead of going in the direction we assumed, which was Sammy and Jay challenging for the tag titles. Not to say that we won't get that, but I think that this was a smart decision to do this first.
Absolutely. And I think we could talk about our main event of Raw
Mm-hmm.
going into that because you mentioned Sammy and Jay, they did have a win
Mm-hmm.
over Finn Balor and JD McDonough. Well, now Jey Uso, his second win in tag team action against the Judgment Day, this time though, with Damian Priest.
All rise. Yeah.
What did you think of this main event? And a few questions out of this. Do you think the direction is Damian Priest and Jey Uso going after the tag titles? And how do you feel about this new Judgment Day still not able to really gain some momentum or gain a victory?
Yeah. I thought the main event was fine. It was a classic house show tag match. Nothing really special about it. Um, so I thought it was fine. I do see Jay and Damien going after the tag titles. I think that makes a lot of sense instead of Sammy and Jay. Um, so yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. And I very well could see it. But also the thing is Jay is they also tease something with Jay and Braun. So what direction are they doing? What direction are they going in with Jey Uso? Um, I don't know. I think Jay and Damian could very well be the next tag team champions. As far as the new Judgment Day, they're being carried by Dom and Liv, and they need a heater. They need muscle in that group because right now no one takes them seriously, and they desperately need somebody. But for right now, it's fine, but it's just not believable. What do you got, Will?
I'm so, every time you're like, oh, they need someone to come in, and I've been poisoned too much. I'm like, they need Shane McMahon in the Judgment Day.
Or the
They're
Motor
gonna
City
swerve
Machine Guns.
everyone.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, exactly. They need the Lucha Bros.
Who's a heater? Who can we put on the Judgment Day that's gonna make them more formidable? We need somebody to foil Damian Priest. Is really what it is. That's not Finn Balor because he's gonna squash Finn.
It's really like I was trying to think because like I was going down like NXT, uh,
Yeah.
WWE, and like I don't know who would make them legit, and I don't want it to be this name, so don't quote me on this.
Mm-hmm.
But like, no, I can't even say it. It's so ridiculous. It's
No,
like
say it.
it's not even a top rope take.
Mayor Kane.
This is like a Jeff Hardy off the top of the ladder, in the middle of the wind.
Okay.
Brock Lesnar coming in, and he just gets paid off by the Judgment Day to destroy Damian Priest, but it would elevate Damian Priest if he did have a match with a returning Brock Lesnar. I don't know any of the scenario going on with Brock. I'm not going to get involved with talking about that. But if they are planning on him returning at some point, then I feel like one of the people you could put him up against to elevate someone in the division to a main eventer would be Damian Priest. So
I actually don't hate the idea of Lesnar Priest to elevate Priest. I do, however, hate the idea that Brock Lesnar would come back to align with Carlito and JD McDonough.
Oh, dude. Oh, my God. But now you said that, Carlito and Brock on screen would be so funny. Like, it would be unbelievable. Just Brock being there, like, that's pretty cool, right? Carlito's like, yeah, that's pretty cool. He's like, no, I lied. That's not cool. Yeah. He's like, oh, yeah, no, that's not cool. That's not cool. So that's like way out there. I don't even want to put that out there in the universe. I think it wouldn't even be a case where he's a part of their group. It'd just be like he's like a straggler that they hired, and then like every time they try to like kiss ass to him, he's just like, get away from me. Right. He's like, I'm just here to go after Priest.
You know what? I got a take for you.
Okay.
After he's done with all of his single stuff, throw Bronson Reed in there.
Yeah, that could work.
I guess. Make Bronson Reed the heavy.
I kind of like him being on his own, though. I feel like that works better for him, especially because he's trying to rise up the ranks. And I don't know if that necessarily adds credibility to the Judgment Day, especially because, like, The last thing I'd want is for Bronson Reed to get all this momentum and then pair himself up with a group that has absolutely no momentum at all.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there could be a conflict of interest there.
Mm.
But there's a lot of names that we're probably missing. So maybe
Yeah.
we'll do a separate discussion on who could join the Judgment Day. It's
The
been on our
Judgment Day
minds.
draft.
I don't even mind your idea from a few weeks ago where Nakamura comes in and it's
Yeah,
just
I
like
still
this
stand by that.
assassin
Hmm.
that just brutalizes people and maybe can give
Hmm.
someone a good match. But yeah, I hope they get more momentum. I think you mentioned Jay and Braun Breaker potentially going
Yeah.
into a few. I'm curious to see. I think Jey Uso is going to win the Fatal 4-Way next week,
Hmm.
but I also wouldn't be surprised if Braun Breaker screws Jay and tries to get like a different challenger and to avoid Jay, and then you build up Braun and Jay later on for like a Survivor Series or something like that.
Right. You
As long
think
as Jay's not involved in, I feel like the time's ticking. By the way, for this
bloodline
Bloodline
stuff?
versus Bloodline 2.0 to be the War Games match, I feel like we're gonna get
We still
something
have two and a
Judgment Day
half
related.
months.
I guess, but then they really gotta kick this thing off at like Bad Blood at the latest.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Um, yeah. So who's in that Fatal 4-Way match? It's
Jey Uso, we got Ilya
Ilya
Dragunov, we got Pete Dunne,
and Braun
and we got
Strowman.
Braun Strowman.
So Strowman is out because Strowman's got his shit with Bronson Reed, and that's going to be a factor.
Is he? What do you mean he's out? Like he
Like
won the
I don't think
match?
Braun
Oh,
Strowman
he's not gonna
going
win. I see
forward.
what you're saying. I thought you meant like he's out of the match. I
No,
was
no, no,
like,
no. Like he's in the
okay,
Fatal 4 match, but I have no belief that he's going to win. I think he's got
right,
his program, Bronson Reed.
yeah.
Pete Dunne has got two programs currently, one with Sheamus and one with Trick Williams over on NXT. So I think he's a
Please hold on. Please tell me you heard the Trick Williams song.
well, whoop that trick.
No, no. Oh my gosh, he did a song about Pete Dunne,
No, I
but
haven't.
you can't see me, Petey.
No,
There's no
I
way
haven't.
that you could beat me, Petey. Oh my god, you have to see that. So look it up, bro. It is so
Okay.
good. It's like way too good to be like a song by a wrestler. Like it is so funny, and it's got some cameos from people in NXT. Like
Okay.
dude, American Made is just in the video too, just like in shades and stuff, dancing with Trickle. It's awesome. You definitely, I recommend anyone who's listening to this, please check it out if you haven't already. It is
Okay.
awesome.
I
Way too
will.
good for a wrestling
I
song.
will. That'll be my first thing I do after this.
Okay.
But all that to say, Pete Dunne's a little busy right now, so I don't
Yeah.
think he's winning. So really, it's between Ilya and Jay, right? And I certainly could see Ilya winning and Jay just continuing his stuff with Judgment Day. You could see Jay winning, and then what does Ilya do? I don't know. So I think my money is actually on Ilya.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the thing. Like you could have Braun like interfere with this and then have Ilya win because I think Ilya is like the other favorite in this match. You could go either way.
And he's got history of Braun, right? He has unfinished business because he lost by count out or something.
Yeah, or like ref stoppage, I think it
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
So I'll take Ilya Braun at Bad Blood or whatever.
Yeah, I'll take that too. And also if it's Jay Braun, wouldn't mind that either because
Yeah.
that's what they've been building up to. It seems like
But I
the
agree. I
logical
think
thing
that's
to
more of
do.
a survivor. And well, if Survivor Series Bloodline, I don't know. Well, they'll figure it out.
But you can't see me, Petey. I'm gonna be saying that all the time.
um. Okay. What else from this show you want to talk about?
um So we had American Made and Alpha Academy go head to head,
Yes.
and it sucks because we mentioned this multiple times before how much momentum Otis has lost because you could still hear the crowd really wants to get behind Otis,
Yeah.
but it's just not the same as it was
They
like a few months
really drop.
ago.
This is a rare Triple H L in my opinion. I think he's so good at most of this, but this is a real he dropped the ball a lot with this
Yeah.
story. And I think the biggest issue was he wanted to shoehorn in the Wyatt Six before the story dictated the Wyatt Six. Um, because he had the American Made and American Alpha and Chad Gable and Otis stuff was so hot. And the fact that we never got a proper did we ever get a proper one-on-one match with Gable
But
and Otis?
Chad, no, we haven't.
Like what the hell? At this point, who cares, you know? But like,
Well, that's the thing. Like, I feel like I still feel like the crowd is with Otis, which is why I'm like, if they don't do something soon, they're gonna completely lose that momentum because
They've lost it.
even though they've lost the momentum, but the crowd is still like you could feel that there's
Yeah.
still some Otis hype. And I feel like because it's dropped off so much, like there's only going to be like, unless they do something big storyline wise very soon, like they're going to start to realize that, okay, they're not doing anything with Otis. Why should we care about him?
Right.
And then they're just not going to react to him at all. The fact that they have dropped the ball on him so hard and there's still people in the crowd that want to get behind Otis makes me believe that they could, if they wanted to, turn this around if they just do something with Otis. But week after week, they just continue to make him this like lower tier job guy.
Yeah.
And it's just so beneath Otis at this point. He should be a lot higher on the card because he's one of those guys who can, without having much of a story or much of anything going on, still get a huge reaction from every crowd he walks in front of.
Yeah, I think what was it, Clash at the Castle, where like he was just like so over, and like that was like the peak of that storyline with him and Chad Gable, and just the fact that we've fallen so far because of this Uncle Howdy stuff that doesn't make a ton of sense is really unfortunate. And I hated that they were doing the slow burn of when is Otis going to turn on Chad Gable. It's very similar to when was Sami Zayn going to turn on the Bloodline. And it was kind of like he pushed him, and then that was it. He was
And
like,
then that same night was the Wyatt Six debut.
yeah,
So it kind of just fell off. Now, here's the thing.
not exactly a chair shot to the back.
Right. This American made win in this match did lead to Chad Gable getting on the mic and saying they're going to put an end to the Wyatt Six stuff for good by challenging the Wyatt Six to a street fight. So it's going to be 4-on-4, Wyatt Six, American made in a street fight. Hopefully, this will be the culmination of this feud. We'll have everyone in the Wyatt Six involved against American Made. They could have this bang out match next week on Raw, and then they could put an end to the storyline. Wyatt Six can move on, and then maybe American Made can do something, maybe involving Otis, or just moving on to like the tag title picture or whatever they want to do going forward. Because I do think American Made still can do something big on Raw, but I think they're kind of stuck in this Wyatt Six feud. And I think the Wyatt Six could do something a lot more intriguing on Raw as well. But I think they've kind of been like a really weird feud because it was really hot for like a month or two. And then it's just kind of extended on to the point where for both sides, I think it's better to just move on. So hopefully after next week, they have their big blow off match and we can move these two into something more interesting for each group.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I kind of want to talk about the Wyatt Six for a moment because I was so excited when they came back. I was a huge Bray Wyatt fan, so I loved everything he did. And I was excited to see Bo Dallas back on my screen and this new thing. And again, I've kind of said this in the past couple of weeks, but they've really dropped the ball for me personally. I just don't care at this point. Because I don't see any where are they going? What can you do with these people that's not like just weird? Like them and American Made don't make any sense together. Like there's nothing there. That's logical.
Well,
I don't know.
yeah, I think that I just wish they because I do think there is like the vague storyline reason why they want to go after American Made about having broken families and all that stuff. I just wish they had gone more into their motives. And I feel like the cryptic stuff, it worked really well for Bray Wyatt, but it just seems like hand me down Bray Wyatt when Bo does it or when they because like also the other thing that disappointed me was I wanted to hear all the other members' motives for joining the group, and I thought they started really hot with Eric Rowan and him getting emotional about losing both Bray Wyatt and Brody Lee. And then in the coming weeks, it's like Nikki Cross just had like a screaming promo.
She just screamed.
Joe Gacy was just like laughing and said a few words. And then same thing with Dexter Lumis. So it's like we didn't really understand why they were joined in. Like we just had to assume because of what Uncle Howdy was saying to them, their reasons for joining. Hopefully, after this is wrapped up, instead of jumping right into another feud, because I feel like they can wait a little bit, let's get more promo packages. That was the bread and
Yeah.
butter of what made Bray Wyatt so great, is having promo packages where he established his character and his reason for going after certain individuals or groups.
Mhm.
So I feel like that's what this Wyatt Six group, they kind of need to reset a bit, not reset their whole character or their whole stable or anything, but just reset in that, establish who they are, what they're here to do, and their motivation for doing the things they do on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah. No, I agree. Every direction, every side needs a new direction.
Right. And it's also like you have to think about new viewers coming in, especially leading into Netflix. You do have to, with a group like this, reestablish what they're trying to do, because if you don't, then imagine like watching Raw like starting last month. I would have no idea what the hell this group is, other than it's a tribute to Bray Wyatt. Like, why are they here? What are they doing? Now, even if you've been following for like a few months, like it's almost like they really haven't established anything on screen besides like wanting to go after broken families.
Right.
So, like, unless you're like from post WrestleMania following the QR code stuff and been doing that from that point on, it's a little directionless, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I agree. Directionless is a good word, I think.
And I mean that with all due respect to what they're trying to do.
There's something else from the show that I want to talk about, and it's not actually something we saw on the show.
Okay.
Something we didn't see on the show. We don't have a ton of information. So I'm not here to speculate as to what happened. But there are reports that Odyssey Jones is no longer with the company, which is a huge bummer, because I was personally very invested in the story with Odyssey Jones and Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. And if it is true that Odyssey Jones has been released and he's not with the company anymore for whatever reason, that is a big bummer, specifically for Kofi and New Day, because they desperately needed something. This gave them something. I thought Xavier Woods was doing an incredible job in his role. I was looking forward to where it was going to go. I thought there was a lot of direction that could have gone with it. And so I, for one, am very disappointed if this is if that entire program and story is over, because I really wanted to see where it was going to go.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to speak for you, but I assume you just mean on a storyline perspective alone. I think it was the right decision if what came out is true about Odyssey Jones for him.
Oh yeah, I thought that was obvious. I'm not.
Yeah.
If he deserved to be released, he deserved to be released. I'm just saying, as a fan, I was disappointed we're not going to.
I just want to make sure, because there's crazy lunatics out there that'll take that completely.
Yeah, I thought that was
out of context.
Fine.
But I still think there are storyline things you can do involving this, like without outright mentioning his name. You could still have this be like part of their story, their like kind of their recent disagreements with each other. Like you tried to bring in someone and now they're not here anymore. Just say that straight up. And like Xavier was being like maybe next time we need to be more careful about who we're just letting into our family like that. And I do think there's stuff you can do with the New Day and their disagreements and maybe the tension that's been brought between Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods that can lead to where this storyline I think was leading to anyway, which is Big E coming in and bringing the family back together on their 10-year anniversary to be like the New Day's back.
All right, you ready? I got an idea for you. I got a story pitch. So
the dogs love it.
The dogs are barking. Where's Braun Breaker? I apologize for my pup, but it's okay. So I'll try to push through this. So real quick, sorry, Cap.
Dude, they are hot for the top row takes right now.
Braun Breaker right now. So kind of what you were saying with Xavier and Kofi, they without acknowledging why Odyssey Jones is gone, they can kind of be like, hey, next time, you want to bring something, let me know. And Kofi be like, yeah, no, that didn't work out, but next time I got you, whatever, something along those lines, right? And then Kofi brings somebody else in again, right? But this time, it's Obafemi. But this time, Unlike Odyssey Jones, Obafemi is not all smiles and rainbows, and Obafemi is like an aggressive, like nice to your face. But when Kofi's not in the room, Obafemi's like, "I'm gonna take your spot." Xavier Woods like, "I'm gonna beat the shit out of you." I'm here for that idea.
I like that idea a lot. I think, but the thing is, the only reason why I'd be hesitant about it is because I think Obafemi, if he's going to be introduced to the main roster, should be in a bigger program than just
Yeah,
like the New
he's a
Day
star.
stuff. He's a star. He's like their next, he should be like their next Bobby Lashley, Brock Lesnar type, just world eater,
Yeah,
destroys everyone in his path. Maybe
yeah,
even goes after Braun Breaker in the Intercontinental Championship like right away if they want to push him that quickly. But I do like that idea in theory. I think there's other people you could bring in. It could be
yeah.
um I think it'd be funny if it wasn't like an Odyssey Jones type. Like what if it
Mhm.
was like I'm trying to think of like a good example, but like oh man, what's like a good like what if it was Joe Hendry? Like like I feel like that could be fun. Like just
Yeah,
had like it's like hey, just some guy that doesn't really fit in with the New Day, but kind of
yeah,
has like that nice
yeah.
jovial upbeat stuff. And he said anytime, any show after
Yeah, I think the
NXT
most
No
important
Mercy.
part of this idea though is that has to be somebody who's a good actor because I think it has to be somebody who's like all like a New Day, positivity, unicorns, rainbows, and pancakes. And then privately, when it's just them and Xavier Woods, he's like, "I'm gonna get your spot. I'm taking your family. I'm gonna beat your ass." And then he's like a Jekyll and Hyde character.
Sure.
I love that. All right, what else you want to talk about? Well,
Nothing on Raw, but we did get finally a long awaited debut at NXT No Mercy. We got the debut
mm-hmm.
of Giulia.
Yes, I did see this. I did watch No Mercy.
So, first off, Roxanne and Jada Parker, great match.
Mm-hmm.
Really stole the show there on NXT No Mercy. And Jada Parker, got to give her flowers because she's one of those NXT Performance Center like recruits that has only been training for a year, has only had, handful of matches. And just to be able to step up on a big show like this and deliver with Roxanne Perez, who's obviously phenomenal, really impressive. And I think Jada Parker's got a bright future in WWE. But after the match, lights went out. I thought for some reason it was like a white six thing when I first saw it when the lights went out and Roxanne Perez was like looking around. I'm like, this is interesting. So she's gonna feud with Nikki Cross over the NXT championship. But then Giulia came out, which is the better option, let's be real. And Giulia was looking great, confronts Roxanne Perez. She did so last night on NXT with some little Chelsea Green shenanigans, which I love. So, Jason, how do you feel about Giulia making her debut, and what are your expectations for Giulia in WWE going forward?
So I am not very familiar with Julia's run in Japan or on the independents. I really don't know anything about her. However, what I can tell you is just from the presentation alone, they see money with her. They see her as a big star. They're going to market her as a big star. And I fully expect her to take the title from Roxanne Perez and have Roxanne move up. Right?
I think that's the logical thing to do. I'm curious to see how long they extend it, uh, to see like what how long they want Roxanne because I think they see Roxanne. She's 22 years old. Do you know this?
Yeah.
Roxanne's
Yeah.
22. Like that's unbelievable. So
Mm,
she does have a lot of time where if they don't want to rush her to the main roster right away and they want her to continue to be like this mainstay at NXT, they could.
yeah.
So I think there's a way where I actually heard this interesting pitch where like it's Giulia versus Roxanne and who screws over Giulia, but Stephanie Vaquer, the other big NXT signing,
Oh,
then you
interesting.
get Giulia, Stephanie, and Roxanne in sort of a three-way feud. And that's how you could get the title off Roxanne without her losing, make her look strong going up to the main roster, and then also have that built-in feud between Giulia and Stephanie Vaquer. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's necessarily what they want to do is have two outsiders who aren't performance center
Mm,
people go into a feud for the NXT title. But I'm curious to see if they just give Giulia the title immediately. And then, because I think once Giulia gets the title, it's like Gunther. Like she should have this title for a long time before
yes.
taking it off her. I think she should be this absolute world beater.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but
can see
before
that.
that, do you give Roxanne like a win? I don't know if you give Roxanne a clean win against her, but I'm curious to see what they do or how soon they go into this title match with Roxanne. Maybe Giulia gets a few wins with
Mhm.
some other NXT names before getting that title shot.
I could see. I definitely don't see Roxanne beating Julia if we're being candid. Um, I mean, I think Julia's got to get the title, but I also don't necessarily think you have to call up Roxanne the main roster. I like you said, I do think like almost like a female Johnny Gargano, like she can just be there forever and doing until like there's literally nothing else for her to do. Um, Especially given the fact that the depth of that women's division on NXT is insane. Um, there's so many people for her to work with and elevate and get better. One thing I'd love to see Roxanne do before she gets caught up to the main roster is do they still have women's tag titles in NXT? Is that a thing?
No, they unified those
Oh, okay.
last year. Remember with Ronda Rousey, Shayna
No, I didn't
Baszler.
watch that.
There you go.
Well, I was gonna say I think there's a storyline with her and Cora Jade when Cora Jade comes back. 'Cause they're real life best friends, and now they're both heels. So I definitely think that there's something there. Um, whether if they're a tag team or something, I don't know, but I that's something I would be interested to see. And then just in general, seeing Roxanne working with all the other women, like Roxanne and Sol Ruka, Lola Vice, yeah, take your pick.
I actually, since you mentioned Roxanne and Cora Jade, I actually wouldn't mind, and they love rehashing stuff from the 90s and 2000s. I wouldn't mind seeing a two-woman power trip where Roxanne has the NXT title and Cora Jade has the North American women's
Mm-hmm.
title, and then
Yeah.
they are earn tag action, and then they just kind of like fight two women and at any given moment to maybe like if that team wins, then they get a title shot against
Yeah.
whoever they pin. Just a good way to build that chemistry as well as build up some other women on the
Mm-hmm.
roster by putting them in tag action against Roxanne and Cora Jade. And I think we are getting Cora Jade soon. Saw some videos of her in rehab. I hope to see Cora Jade soon because I think she's another great NXT talent that can get in the
Phenomenal.
mix with the Julia
Mm-hmm.
and Stephanie Vaquer picture as well. But I'm excited to see Julia in NXT. If it were up to me, this is also why I could see Roxanne winning. Because if it were up to me, I would have Julia on the main roster right now. But if they wanted to, they could just have her fight for the NXT title, not get the win, but look great, have her there for like a few months, and then Royal Rumble, call her up immediately.
Yeah, I think the whole point of her starting in NXT though is one to get her familiar with our audience because I don't even know who she is, and I'm an above average wrestling fan, and I don't
Yeah.
really know too much about her. Um, but also the behind the scenes stuff is right, teaching her how to perform to a WWE style and on television and all that fun stuff. So she does need to be there for a little bit. She can't just go straight to the main roster. Um,
I, I I get what you're saying. I do hate that mentality though, where it's like you have to be at like some of these guys. Like, does Will Ospreay have to be at NXT for 3 months so he could learn the WWE
no,
style?
but the difference
Does
is, but
does
the
give it whoever Okada? Does Okada have to be there for 3 months to learn the WWE style before he goes up to the main roster? I get what you're saying with the production values, all that stuff, but how long do they have to spend down there before we can finally just say, like, I guarantee you in 3 months we're gonna be like, why the hell is Julia on NXT? Like, this girl
yeah,
is clearly better than like everyone in NXT and half of the girls on the main roster. So that's what frustrates me sometimes about every wrestler
mm-hmm.
having to go through the performance center, which Shawn Michaels also said in an interview is going to be the case where like every wrestler now has to go through the performance center in one way or another. It doesn't necessarily mean they're on NXT television,
Yeah,
but they do have to go to the performance center before making their debut on WWE television.
yeah.
And for some people, that's great. But think about AJ Styles. Did AJ Styles have to go to the performance center and be on NXT for a few months before debuting? Or was that debut just one of the most awesome moments because we didn't see him before on any WWE television before the Royal Rumble? And
But
that's
there's a
what made him a
reason.
huge star coming off the gate.
But there's also a reason why he's a rarity.
No, I get that. And not everyone's AJ Styles, but like I'd hope that in the future, like guys with that experience or women with that experience, and I'm not saying Julia necessarily has that experience, but I just hope that like that's not like a set in stone rule that they do have the ability to keep that open for veterans who come into
I
WWE.
think the difference was AJ Styles was on television for 15 years before he came to WWE. Julia
Sure.
has not been on television.
But I mean, like, you could say the same thing about like an Ethan Page. and he went straight to NXT. But I get what you're saying, like Ethan Page's and AJ Styles, and you could say the same thing. Like there's interesting,
and they made him a
it's
champion right away.
and they made him you know what? That's a great point, and that's fine. I mean, I don't, and I don't want to necessarily put everyone in that category, but I do think not everyone should be like AJ Styles. 15 years on television, that's great. But if someone's just good enough to be on television anyway, and they've even been on television for a few years, I don't think. How about this? I don't think Samoa Joe should have been in NXT. Do you think he should have been in NXT? You could say the same thing for Samoa Joe, and they didn't do that for him. They did it for AJ Styles.
I would not have been opposed to him going straight to the main roster. But exactly. I don't think him being on NXT was an indictment on him or his skill level. I think it was a time and a place where he fit the roster better. Because at that time, the black and gold era of NXT, they were really about bringing in independent stars who are established names,
right,
as shock value.
Keep going. And
but they're not there anymore.
Who would fall under that category better than AJ Styles? And yet he got on the main roster. Like AJ Styles would have been perfect for what you said, the black and gold era of NXT, yet he was still good enough to get on the main roster. Why couldn't you say that about Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode, James Storm, who they only had for a cup of coffee?
AJ Styles is head and shoulders above every single one of them.
Yeah, head and shoulders above Samoa Joe.
You heard it here first. AJ Styles is head and shoulders above Samoa Joe.
You're crazy. You're crazy. Samoa Joe could have literally been their next big guy. That could have been
Samoa Joe never won a world title in WWE.
Exactly. And that's a shame. That is an absolute shame. And he could, if they just put him on the main roster immediately, they could have done the same exact thing, same exact build, and it would have gotten more over than AJ Styles. How about that for a hot take? Because how about this? Samoa Joe versus Brock Lesnar. This is going to be a hot take. I like that match more than AJ Styles, Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, but what does that have to do with anything?
Because he posed a more credible threat to Brock Lesnar, their top guy in WWE, than AJ Styles did. I never once believed in that match AJ Styles could beat Brock Lesnar. In the Brock Lesnar Samoa Joe match, I was like, this is a all-out dogfight. Samoa Joe should just
classic at Great Balls of Fire.
I love that match, dude. That match is awesome. You got to go back and watch. That thing's like a UFC fight, dude. That thing was incredible. But here's my, we're getting off topic. We're getting we just got completely derailed. All I'm saying is that I just don't think you have to have every single person go through the Performance Center system. And it's different. Look, you're 100% right. It's different back then than it is now. But that almost makes me think that because it's different back then, where it was more acceptable to have independent talent on the show because you had your hardcore fan base watching it, I don't think that applies to this new NXT where it's focused around the newbies and it's focused around more of people trying to get that screen time experience that haven't even been wrestling in the ring for more than a year.
Yes.
They've had guys like Braun Breaker, Tony D'Angelo, Obafemi, guys who don't have a lot of in-ring experience be main players on NXT. And obviously you have to have their counterparts in there. You have to have guys who are ring generals in the middle of the ring that can carry them through the match. But at the same time, if they're just better off being on the main roster, it's better to make them feel special right off the bat than have them kind of soil their name being in the Performance Center for a few months.
Well, we haven't mentioned somebody, though it is very relevant to this discussion.
Okay, go for it.
Jade Cargill did not go to NXT. She's a big star that they brought right up to the main roster because she had TV experience.
Okay. When did Jade Cargill get signed?
Like a year and a half ago.
Exactly. When did she debut?
Like a year ago.
At the Royal Rumble. I'll simplify it. September, she gets signed. She doesn't debut until January. What do you think she did from September to January?
But
she was at the Performance
Center.
Yes. But that's my point. Is like, okay. And look, I think Jade Cargill's not a great example because she could have been in NXT and I would have been completely fine with it because she doesn't have that much experience. And I do think she did need to be at the Performance Center. I'm saying for a guy like, hear me out. Let's think about this.
Ospreay, Okada.
Well, we've mentioned those names. I'm just trying to think of like a women's equivalent. Here's a great example. What did they do with Taya Valkyrie? They put her in NXT and
Mhm.
they made her Frankie Monet,
Yeah.
the woman who's had over a decade of experience. Made her Frankie Monet, and she completely was like a nobody by the time that was done, and they got rid of her.
Yeah.
Had they given her a main roster spot, if they truly believed in her that much to even sign her, then she would be a lot bigger of a star than she would have been in NXT going right into this shitty dog gimmick that they gave her.
Yeah.
So, but to be fair to her, they did, and at that time, they did need ring general. So I think there is a point of like putting experienced people on NXT, a guy like Ethan Page,
Mhm.
people like Joe Hendry, or just people who have had time on the independent scene with the
Mhm.
in-ring experience with the younger guys. But I'm just saying, as a hard and fast rule to put them through the performance center, every single person, I'm not really crazy about that. But I'm also, to be fair to WWE, I don't think they're looking for those people anyway. Like I
No.
don't, they would have signed Osprey if they really wanted to throw a number at him. They would have signed Okada if they wanted to throw a number at him. Tony Khan was just willing to pay them more, and they weren't to go up. They didn't want to go up to that number. It's why
Yeah.
we hear reports about WWE being upset about the number Swerve got,
Yeah.
because they were never going to pay Swerve that amount of money, and Swerve saw the value of him staying in AEW when Tony Khan gave him a big fat check.
Yeah.
So totally take the money, and because honestly that's going to be better for other wrestlers going forward when WWE doesn't want to start paying those guys because they have a performance center where they could grow those guys themselves.
Right.
All right. That was a good combo. I like the energy here.
All right.
Is there anything else you want to talk about here?
Um, there's a lot from AEW I want to talk about, but I think we're going to save that for our next episode. We don't have to wait a week for this one. This one should be coming out this week as well. We're going to do a special AEW exclusive episode where we're going to preview All Out this coming Saturday, I believe, or Sunday. We don't have all the information yet, which is why we're going to wait until after Dynamite this week to really get the full scope of what this card is going to look like here. I'm excited for it. I've really actually been enjoying AEW since All In. I thought Dynamite from this past week was really great. I'm excited for another great episode tonight. And yeah, just I think it's moving in the right direction.
I'm 100% excited. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm still thinking about that conversation. Just one more thing I want to throw at you.
Okay,
One more.
yeah.
I promise that I'm done.
Yeah.
If WWE signed MJF, should he have gone to NXT?
He will go to the Performance Center and do exactly what Jade Cargill did.
You think as soon as they signed MJF, they would have him be at the Performance Center
Yes.
before going to the main roster? So let me just hear this right. If they signed him January next year, not that they can,
He would get a
contract.
headshot with a black Under Armour looking t-shirt on with his arms crossed, and you would say, "Oh, look, MJF's at the Performance Center."
Dude, if they look, and I think there's a timing thing as well. If they signed him in January of next year, he's debuting at the Rumble. Like that's how that like there's certain people like that. If Osprey signed January next year,
Yeah.
he'd be at the Rumble. If Okada did the same thing, he'd be at the Rumble. So that's all I'm saying.
Okay.
And if they did make him, and here's my point also, if they did make him go to the Performance Center, which I don't put it past them, I think that would be a stupid idea. That's all I'm trying to say.
You could get so much out of MJF at the Performance Center.
Of doing what? In NXT?
No, just as a gimmick. Just being like better than
an off-screen gimmick.
Yeah, like you
I don't like off-screen gimmick. Like, what do you mean? Like if they aired on the main roster, like MJF has arrived, but we're putting him at the Performance Center as like a joke, that would be awesome. Because like you get him on the main roster in promo segments, but that he's just schooling everyone or poking people in the eye or just I got this ring and the ring's crossed out. It's, it's just a diamond ring.
Don't you think it's hilarious whose guy's catchphrase is "I'm better than you" and you know it, to have him then have to humble him by starting him with the rookies in the NIL?
Right.
Like, well, that's hilarious.
That is hilarious, but I would want that to be like a main roster gimmick, where like
Right.
we show those videos on the main roster of him having to be saddled with the NIL people
Like,
because it
yeah,
not
just
only
say
gets him
MJF
over.
is here before he can make his main roster debut.
Yeah,
He's got to make it through the performance center, and then the entire time he's just
right.
miserable.
That would be that would be great because it'd almost be a parody on what WWE is doing. It'd
Yeah,
be a parody on this entire conversation because it's like you're taking a guy who was a major name in a different company and you're sticking him in with the NIL rookies, but they would also be in on the joke if they're showing it on the main roster. It
yeah.
wouldn't be as funny if they just didn't mention it at all. And on Twitter, they just had pictures of MJF at the performance
I'm actually
center.
so excited for this idea now. I want to see MJF absolutely miserable because he has to go train with these green rookies at the performance center before he can go to the main roster.
Well, it's going to be even funnier in 4 or 5 years when MJF does have his contract up and he does actually go to WWE
Mm-hmm.
as like an even bigger name because he's just established as like one of the faces of AEW.
Mm-hmm.
And then they do this gimmick where he's like 30 something years old and he's
Mm-hmm.
at the performance center with a guy's coming out of college. And he's just like, dude, what am I doing?
It's like,
Like,
can you just imagine MJF with all the NIL athletes, and they're just doing that drill where they have to like roll out of the corner, and then like, and MJF is just having a like, it's just wants to
he's
freaking
just
kill
like
him.
sandbagging the whole thing.
Yeah, right. He just like pokes the athletes in the eye. I love it. I love that idea. Let's pitch it. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Now we're good.
Good episode. Good episode, Will. AEW episode this Friday where we're going to be previewing AEW All Out. Um, you got anything else, Will?
Yeah, we'll probably be talking Dynamite as well.
Yes.
Excited for that. And yeah, we'll catch you guys Friday.
Awesome. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you later this week.